To announce the Pittsburgh Steelers selection, please welcome from Ohio State, Super Bowl 43 champion and MVP, Santonio Holmes.
What's going on, Nashville? Steeler Nation, just turned it off. Let's go! Let's go! All right, quiet down, quiet down, quiet down.
Oh, boy.
With the 66th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Diontae Johnson, wide receiver, Toledo. Here we go, baby.
The Pittsburgh Steelers like receivers from the MAC, Rich.
Yes, they do, and it's interesting that Santonio Holmes introduces the newest wide receiver using the pick that they got in the Antonio Brown trade, and it's a wide receiver.
And they go get a wide receiver in Diontae Johnson, who's an outstanding returner, a trait that Kevin Colbert loves in his wide receivers. If you look at Juju Smith-Schuster, he returned some kicks. Antonio Brown returned kicks as well. This guy has a 98-yard touchdown where you can see that burst. He's 80-yard touchdown catch in one of the games that I watched. He only ran 4.53, but he plays much faster.
Excited about being here talking to you guys. Very excited about Diontae Johnson. I think not only is he a tremendous football player, but a tremendous young man. I basically fell in love with him after spending time with him and dining with him and talking to him and seeing his passion for the game, his passion for wanting to be great, and his passion for his teammates. He did an outstanding job at Toledo, not only as a wide receiver, but in multi-positions, special teams, as a returner. That's something that you can talk to Danny Smith about. But just tremendously gifted young man, the most natural catcher that I've seen in a while. He did have some concentration drops like they all do, but he's very gifted as far as catching the football. Doesn't have great time speed, but he plays the game fast. Really, really good versus press. And as you guys know, this is a press league. You know, those DBs walk up in your face and they try to fingerprint you. And he's very elusive at the line of scrimmage. And, you know, you need a guy that can get off bump. And the thing that he does, he gets off bump, gets in and out of his breaks as well as anybody that I've seen in a long time. So, you know, he was a guy that that I wanted. And, you know, I just appreciate, you know, Kevin and Mike seeing the same things that I saw in this young man. And as you get to be around him, you're going to love his smile and his personality and his style of play. So, again, very excited about the pick. You know, I think he's a guy that Steeler Nation is going to be very, very excited about.
Questions? When you met with him, was that here 2 weeks ago or was that before that?
No, I went to Toledo and spent some time there and spent some time with him. Also attended his pro day. You know, met with him at the combine. So I had, you know, had time to really be around him because it was important to me what kind of character he had. You know, because for me that's extremely important. And you know, he checked all the boxes as far as that's concerned, and then he had really a good combine and had an outstanding workout at his workout day. And I just, you know, when you watch the tape and you watch, you know, how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands and to change the direction and those things that he has, you know, he's an exciting football player. And he can stop and start, and he can make people miss in open space. And that was really one of the most intriguing things about him. But his personality and his desire and his want to. You know, I've been doing this for 40 years, and you know, he was one of the best interviews and and guys that I've been around a long time.
He said he can play both inside and outside. Do you have any plans for him? Specifically mentioned the slot in particular.
We're going, our offense is diverse. We really feel like that our guys have to be able to play both. He can function outside and he can function inside. He did both at Toledo. We're going to put him in the best spot for us and the best spot to give him the opportunity to do the things that he can do. He can work off that nickel, he can work off linebackers, but he can also line up on the single receiver side and beat one-on-one man-to-man coverage. And that was the most intriguing thing about him, But it doesn't. We'll play him both. We'll play him inside. We'll play him outside. He'll line up at number 3. He'll line up at number 2. He'll line up at number 1. Any of those particular spots, and he'll line up number 1 on the single receiver side. So, and for any young guy coming in, the faster they can learn, the faster they can pick things up, then the more opportunities you have to move them around. For each young man, there's always going to be somewhat of a growth process, but I think he's the kind of young man that'll grow fast.
Derek, do you feel like you have enough speed in your receiver group, and is speed sometimes overrated if you have guys who have different skills?
To me, speed's overrated. And I'm going to say this because if you look at the greatest receivers that have played the game, those guys that are in the Hall of Fame, I only know of one that was a 4.4 guy, really. Maybe 2. James Lofton probably was, but Randy Moss. But you look at the rest of those guys, the Jerry Rices, the Chris Carters, the Michael Irvins, those kind of guys. Those guys are 4.5, 4.55 guys. One of them ran 4.6. I had a guy in Arizona, and he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he was not a 4.4 guy, but he's a 4.4 player. And so speed to me is overrated because, now, don't get me wrong, you like to have that guy that can run really fast and run all the routes and make all the plays, but it's rare. It's very rare to have that. A guy that played here and the Steelers' all-time leading receiver, what did he run? I'm talking about Hines Ward. He wasn't very fast, but he had an innate ability to learn, to know how to get open. And Juju's not a 4.4 guy, but he's a Pro Bowl receiver. So Antonio wasn't a 4.4 guy, but he was an unbelievable receiver. So to me, yes, it is overrated, but we make such a big deal out of it. We want that guy, that blazer. But normally, with that package of that dynamic speed, very seldom do you get the total package. And most of those guys that are 4.5 guys, they're total package guys. And, this guy has the ability to be a total package guy.
This guy's a relatively unknown guy on the MAC. Not a great time, as you know, not great size. There's nothing really eye-popping about this guy. Is there a thought, well, maybe we can get this guy later? We know he could go here, but could we get him later? I mean, was there back and forth like that?
There were so many people at his pro day, and there's so many coaches that I know that was at that pro day, and everybody raved about this kid. So he probably would not be around. I know for a fact that Tampa Bay was going to take him with their next pick. And I got cussed out by the Tampa Bay head coach that called me some names, for taking it because that was his guy, And so everybody that, we all talk, we coaches talk, receiver coaches talk. That was the one guy that everybody talked about. He was the one guy that everybody said. There was not one guy that I talked to, and I talked to a lot of them, that did not like this guy.
I'm not asking you if he's going to be as good as these guys, but if you look at the scouting report, like he's compared to Emmanuel Sanders, and he's 5'10", 183 out of a MAC school and has a lot of the positive attributes that AB did as a player on the field. I'm not asking if he's going to be that good, but I mean, do you see some characteristics within him?
As far as a player, yes, no question. And to me, like I said, I've been in this thing a long time. It doesn't matter where you go to school at. It doesn't matter what level of competition you play against. If you can play, you can play. And it's up to guys that evaluate scouts to see those things. And when one of them can play, you know. You know. Years ago, there was a young man that came out of Mississippi Valley, and nobody wanted to take him because he went to Mississippi Valley State. He went to a small school. He ran 4.5, but Bill Walsh said, "I'm going to take this guy with my first pick." Now, he's the greatest receiver of all time. That's Jerry Rice. So to me, it doesn't matter where you play. I played the game at a small school because back when I came out, there weren't very many guys, minorities that were going to major college schools, but I could play. It didn't matter where I came from, or it doesn't matter if this guy's at Toledo or if this guy, wherever he's at. The guy, I had a guy at Arizona, John Brown. He went to Pittsburgh State, a dynamic player. Injuries and things got to him somewhat, but he's a dynamic player, and he went to Pittsburgh State. Another young man at Chicago years ago that ended up getting hurt by the name of Johnny Knox. He was well on his way to being one of the top receivers in the league. Average per catch, he was number 1, number 2, his first and second years in the league. So if the guys are talented, we have to find that talent. AB, 6th-round draft pick, people probably saying, "What? We take this guy," but you see what he was able to do as a player. So, I really don't ever look where a guy's played at, his level of competition. When I take him and I go through that workout, can he do the things that I ask him to do? Because football is different, and there's talented guys everywhere now. It's like basketball. Anybody can beat anybody. You have maybe 1 or 2 elite teams, but there's players everywhere, and there's competition everywhere. And our quarterback is from the MAC. He's a Hall of Famer. So I'm very excited about him. Don't even think that because he's from a small school in the MAC that this cat can't play, because he can play.
Final question.
Did you have to sell picking him terribly hard to Mike and Kevin? It seemed like the pick came in.
Turn the film on. They watched the film. I really didn't. Actually, I didn't really know about him at first. Mike T did. He saw him. He said, "I want you to watch this guy." And when I saw him, I said, "I see why you want me to watch this guy. He's very, very talented. He's a very gifted player." So, the film doesn't lie. It tells you what you need. And then, the more homework you do, you either confirm it or you say, "Nah, he's not quite what, you thought he was." But, our consensus was, this guy's got it. So, very excited about it.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right. Good.
Showing as they're coming a blitz on the near side. It's going to be a screen. Johnson's got it down the near sideline. Hurdles out of a tackle. 30, 40, across midfield at the foot race. Oh, what a move at the 35. Down the middle of the hash marks. The 25, the 20, and Gordon kick right at the goal line. Johnson will bring it out. The 5, the 10, heading to the far hash. He's into the second level. 25, 30, 35. Off to the races. A posse in front of him, and nobody else there. 30, 20, 10. DJ Johnson. See you in the end zone. Johnson to the far side. Diontae, 2-step drop. Pocket stays clean. They'll sling this one across the middle. Great fingertip catch. Johnson, what a great move. At the 30, the 20, heading to the far pylon. Nobody's gonna catch him. Hey, no rocket.
right, buddy. Happy day 2 of the NFL draft. The Steelers have 3 picks in the 3rd round, and they just, with number 66, have picked a wide receiver out of Toledo, Diontae Johnson. Joining me to break it down, of course, is Mike Prisuta. And this pick, Mike, is the one that the Steelers got from Oakland in the trade with Antonio Brown, a very high 3rd-round draft pick. Kevin Colbert referred to it as almost a 2. And then you had Santonio Holmes announcing the pick. So kind of made sense that it was a wide receiver.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We've talked a lot, both leading up to the draft and yesterday, about perceived needs. Got to get an inside linebacker, right? Got to get help at wide receiver. Got to get a tight end at some point. Got to get a running back at some point. Well, with this pick, they've also addressed special teams in particular. And that's not something that we spent a lot of time on pre-draft, but certainly something that could use some bolstering. I don't think there's any question about that. And one of the things that jumps off the bio of Diontae Johnson, averaged 20.2 yards per punt return at Toledo with 2 touchdowns, and he also had 2 kickoff returns for scores at Toledo. He averaged 23.4 yards on those. He's described by his coaches as passionate about his craft and coachable. Not necessarily the most refined of wide receivers. He's a former quarterback, and he's still kind of figuring out how to play wide receiver. But while he's doing that, he has had a penchant for big plays, Missy, not just in the kicking game. Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network talked about him at the scouting combine, said, quote, "You'll see 90-plus yard TDs, punt returns, 80 yards long TD catches." To me, he reminds me a little bit of D.D. Westbrook. Of course, that's a reference to a guy who's in Jacksonville now. The official 40-yard dash time was 4.53, which is not blazing, but according to Daniel Jeremiah, Johnson's a guy who plays faster than his time. He's also the 2018 MAC Special Teams Player of the Year. I guess when you keep running the ball into the end zone,
yeah, you might get that award.
You're going to get some consideration for that. So addressing receiver, yes, and addressing special teams.
And we know the Steelers do have that great track of drafting wide receivers. He was also a guy that they obviously wanted to get some more information about. We hear that so often when we talk about these pre-draft visits. They're only allowed to have 30 of them. And Johnson did come here to Pittsburgh inside the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex to meet with the Steelers. So there must have been something about him, whether it was something at the Combine that they wanted to dig deeper into, or perhaps at his pro day at Toledo. I am told that wide receivers coach Daryl Drake did go to that. So maybe they wanted to learn a little bit more information, and that's why they brought him into Pittsburgh to maybe get more comfortable with him. But again, the Steelers using their first of 2 third-round draft picks tonight to go with a wide receiver out of Toledo, Diontae Johnson. And of course, just like last night, there will be a press conference upstairs here inside the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. So when we're ready to go to that, we will go there. I'm assuming it would be Coach Drake, could be Randy Fichtner. We'll find out.
I hope it's Coach Drake because he comes up with stuff like catch it with your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that last spring, and I'm thinking, don't you catch it with your hands? But Diontae Johnson is in for all kind of instruction. One more descriptive note about him. This is according to Lance Zierlein on NFL.com's draft preview. He describes Johnson, Missy, as a guy with basketball athleticism. So it sounds like they got a guy who can help on special teams immediately, and a guy who they can grow and develop into a more precise route runner and a more refined receiver.
All right, and again, we will be bringing that press conference to you in just a little bit. I believe they're trying to get Diontae Johnson on the phone with the media upstairs, so we're going to take a quick break. But as promised, as soon as the press conference is ready to start upstairs, we will be bringing that to you live. We will be right back momentarily. All right, and that was wide receivers coach Daryl Drake. His press conference, yes, was brought to you by the UPMC Health Plan. UPMC is proud to be the official health plan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm pretty sure if Coach Drake wanted to sit there until pick 83, he would have. But unfortunately, we got to move it on a little bit because we do have another pick in the 3rd round. But I think it's very clear Daryl Drake is very high, as he said, in love with the pick. Number 66, the wide receiver out of Toledo, Diontae Johnson.
Yeah, just to summarize that a little bit, Daryl Drake dropping some knowledge and some names. Larry Fitzgerald, Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, Randy Moss. And then my favorite line of the whole thing, our quarterback is from the MAC. When he wasn't talking about that stuff, he was talking about how it's not a track meet. And I'm kind of paraphrasing here. But, yeah, the 40-yard dash time is not going to blow anybody away. But Johnson, his reputation is stops and starts, change of direction, and acceleration. Missy, I'd liken it to a baseball pitcher. You know, you can throw 98 miles an hour, but you still have to change speeds. You can throw 89 miles an hour, and if you still change speeds, you can be effective. He's got an understanding, it appears watching him on tape, of what he can do physically and what he can't. And he seems pretty comfortable with that. When he becomes a little more consistent catching the ball, they might be on to something. In the meantime, let's go back to that return game. Those long returns jump off the stat sheet. You saw some of the highlights as we were listening to Coach Drake. That's where you see that acceleration and change of direction. I love that one. Change direction about 3 times. So something to work with and something to use right away while you work with your third-round pick, 3A, and make him a little more refined as a wide receiver. Also, maybe a line from Del Drake that we should not underrate. It was important to me what kind of character he had. He checked all the boxes as far as that's concerned. I don't know if that was a reference to anything, but all of a sudden, character's in, Missy.
All right, the other thing that I like that Coach Drake said is that he was asked, could the Steelers have waited to maybe pick him maybe with the 3B pick or later in the draft? He said, no, I know for a fact Tampa Bay was going to take him with their next pick. I just got cussed out by their head coach.
Welcome back,
that is his quote. So
welcome back.
I think Daryl Drake was trying to send home the point that there were other teams high on this guy. He said his pro day at Toledo was very highly attended, and Coach Drake also reiterating the point that the Steelers met with him at the Combine, they were at his pro day, and also then brought him into Pittsburgh here for a pre-draft visit. So.
And when he says the Toledo pro day is highly attended,
that means something.
That's not guys going to Florida
right.
in March. It's not guys
Alabama,
going to Arizona.
Right.
It's Toledo, okay? And it was highly attended. There must have been a reason to go. In case you're wondering about defense, there was a couple corners on the board that at least intriguing names to me. Julian Love of Notre Dame and Justin Lane of Michigan State. The Steelers went with Johnson, but guess what? Those guys are still on the board.
All right, and right now we are on the 77th pick. The Steelers are up next at number 83. Mike and I are not going anywhere. We will be right back as soon as the Steelers make their selection with 83. So make sure you are right back here tuned in to see who the Steelers pick so we can break it down and also go live upstairs to the press conference. That's going to do it for now. We'll see you in a little bit.
Diontae, what's going on? Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers. Good. You ready to be a Steeler? Good. Where you at, man? You in Florida? Hey, look, I want you to enjoy the evening. Congratulations. But also, want you to be prepared, man. We got a whirlwind of things, man. First, it's a lot of people here that want to welcome you, and then we got to look and see if we can get you up here for our Fan Fest tomorrow. So enjoy the night, but also keep your eyes and ears open, man. There'll be a bunch of people that want to say hello.